We are halfway through the Coleman on Purpose summer series, The Other Sides. Believe it or not, teaching was a major career choice for more than half my life. I have some stories to share of what led me away from the profession, along with how I'm still able to look at ways it's connected to my purpose. The Other Sides of Teaching begins right after this fabulous intro. It's time for another Coleman on Purpose. This is David J. Coleman here, and I am ready to jump into another chapter of my summer series, The Other Sides. And this has been an amazing series thus far. This is my fourth installment of the summer series. So we've been talking about so many different things, and they're all attached to like what we've dreamed about doing in our lives, and sometimes we're still in process of trying to do within our lives. It's all part of our purpose. So I wanted to tie that into this summer series. So we've touched on all the sides so far, like singing, writing, and acting. Now here is actually another side that I'm going to present today that is kind of different from the vein that I've been going in, because a lot of these things that I've been looking at have been like dreams and aspirations and things that you really have to put your heart into in order to accomplish. And they're not really, people don't consider them careers sometimes. Like, yes, acting can be a career after a lot of hard work, or writing can be something that you can make a career if you do it consistently. Just like singing can be the same form of that means for you doing something, but you really have to be consistent with it. It's not really like something that is quote unquote something that fits into the narrative of what we look at in everyday life as a career. So this one is the side of teaching. And this is like a real career that I had thought about doing for a very long time. When I think about it, 5 out of the 6 of these parts of the other sides are futures of my life that involve never really giving up on your dream. Some people do dream of being a teacher. I would think that some people really dream of doing that, but it's something that kind of fits into something that people need in everyday life. And you need somebody to watch your kids. You need somebody to make sure you're taking care of their children and giving them their mind or their thoughts as they grow up. And as you're at work doing things, these teachers are taking care of your children a lot of times. Sometimes people choose to do the homeschooling route, but many of the times your kids are sent to school. And so teaching is much different to me. And I can definitely remember being younger and wanting to be a teacher so bad. I do remember my father being a teacher, and he was actually my teacher for a while. Before I went to kindergarten, we had pre-K and everything, and my father was my teacher in certain parts of the class. Of course, there were other teachers that were there, but this was a school that was within the church that I was at the time in St. Louis, and my dad was a teacher. So that's the first time, I saw something of what I may want to do in the future. And I kind of carried that with me for quite a while. I can remember maybe in the second or third or fourth grade, maybe more close to like first or second, my mom actually purchased a chalkboard, a little mini black chalkboard for me, along with like teachers' books that had like, how you had the teachers' books back in the day. I used to love those things. Let me tell you, when I used to go into classrooms, listen, I love the teacher's manuals because it would have all of like the tests in there or something that you're reading, and it'd be like highlighted of what the teacher should talk about on the side. And it had like, you would cross out, they would have the answers to the test that we would take, and it'd be written in red. And you would see all these, it was like red or pinkish lettering. I remember some of these books and stuff, and I just was so intrigued. I'm sure nowadays you have computers and everything. Teachers don't need those teacher's manuals anymore, but it basically gave a guide of what you need to cover within a book that they may be reading, or English class, or maybe a math course that you were taking at the time. And I can remember looking, and my mom would bring me those textbooks and those teacher's guides from like these on sale things at the library, and she would bring them back to me, and I would teach my fake stuffed animals. I would sit up there and I would teach them. So along with that, and along with something I'm going to cover in the next other sides, I used to preach to my stuffed animals too. But I used to really like be the teacher. So I would have my chalkboard. I had my chalk that was purchased for me, and I would just be going to town, grading fake tests, everything like that, and correcting the kids. Oh, I love doing that, correcting the kids and telling them you need to sit down, stop talking right now. I would make up a whole imaginary thing of what I would be doing as a teacher, and so I can definitely remember these times, and I remember just wanting in my heart to reach out and learn what a child needed, or what a child might want in the future. Like they'll come back to a teacher and talk to them and say, you really made an impact in my life. And I can remember myself wanting to do that. So whenever I was asked by someone what I wanted to be growing up, I would always say, I want to be a teacher. And I carried that with me until later on. And even in high school, I still wanted to be a teacher, even though I think things kind of changed a little bit because I was trying to fit in and things like that. So I got a little bit more into my acting and different things like that. And so those things kind of took over from me quite wanting to teach. But I kept in that vein because like I was directing and stuff like that. And I was trying to do things that involved me teaching kids. And I was always like that leader when I was younger. They would put me in these roles where, either I would be the responsible teenager or whatever like that. I wasn't just doing anything, but I would always be put in that like responsible role when it came to just different things like that. So that's really what I remember. And then after going to college, and having my brain injury and everything that happened to me, I carried it with me that I wanted to still be a teacher. But going through what I went through, I felt at that time that my knowledge and wit were not the same. Everything was not as sharp as it used to be. And I wasn't retaining things as easily, memorizing things as easily, remembering things all the time. I was having to relearn things. And somehow I didn't in that time feel like I was as equipped as I was back in high school and elementary to walk into being a teacher and teaching kids if I really didn't know, some of the answers, or something that a question that might come up and I wouldn't know how to answer it. So I got to school in 2003, and I was kind of wanting to still be a teacher, and I chose to teach the K through 3. And the reason why I chose K through 3 is because I was like, okay, kindergarten, things aren't as advanced and everything like that. I can teach kindergarten, first grade, second grade, something like that, and I'll go into this and teach something. And I went into that thinking, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to teach K through 3. So I went and talked to a particular counselor at the time. And the funny thing is, I went and sat down and talked to him about, my choice of being K through 3. And what he told me, and I will never forget it to this day, was as a K through 3 male teacher, there are not going to be as many males in the field, and you're not going to be able to be hired as quickly being a male teacher. I'm not sure if he said at the time a black male teacher or a male teacher. All I remember in my mind was he was saying that a male teacher was not usually going to find females in this field, so I might want to look into something different. So being the person I was back then and wanting to, make sure that I was on the right path and everything like that, I ended up changing what I wanted to teach, the grade, the age group, because I was like, okay, the insecurities I had right then about being, wanting to be a man and all these different things, things that I had dealt with in the past, I was still dealing with in college, because like, why do I want to be surrounded by all females? This might be weird. And, I don't want to be put in that category, people calling me names or doing different things and talking about me behind I was like, I didn't want that. And so I started to think like, okay, maybe I need to switch it up. So I chose to go ahead and teach 4th through 7th grade. And going into that field of wanting to teach 4th through 7th, by the way, a lot of teachers that I talked to later on after making that decision to not do K through 3rd, current teachers I was talking to were telling me, you would have probably been hired right on the spot, because we need the male teachers in those veins. We need that type of thing. And at the time, I wasn't all there, because I was really trying to listen to advice. I was trying to be as strong as I could with making my decisions. And so me switching my focus over to 4th through 7th grade, it required a lot more brain work, because there were things that maybe I hadn't quite caught up to yet after my brain injury, because a lot of the classes I was taking were heavier courses and different things like that were beginning to compile. and my attention span and different things that I used to have a lot in high school, I was gaining them back at the time because I remember I had gone through a traumatic brain injury, which I talk about in the first chapter of my podcast, all the way up till now when I get to college and I am sitting in these classrooms and intaking all this information and like, I'm very lost right now. So, and I'm on a scholarship as well. So I don't want to lose my scholarship by failing out or getting D's and F's in these classes. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do because if I fail out of these classes, I'm going to lose my scholarships and I'm not going to be able to afford college. So I had to make some critical decisions at the time about what I wanted to do at the time. And because I didn't want to let my grades slip. And I decided, okay, what else was I good in when I was in high school, or what do I gravitate towards? What is another thing that I love? Listen to this. It goes right back to what I talked about in the first part of Other Sides is music, singing, and all the things I used to do with band and all of these things. And I was like, okay, I can still teach, but I can be a music teacher. So I switched my focus again. This was in either the freshman or sophomore year I was in. I think it may have been my sophomore year. And I was like, okay, music education. So I went into music education and I had to choose classes from there where, they had piano classes where you learn the piano and then the treble clef. And that's even more advanced sometimes because, yes, I remembered how to play a bass clef and all those things, but I barely remembered, the treble clef from back when I was in band. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I am way in over my head at this time. And I probably stayed in music education for only like a semester. And I was like, I can't do this. I love music very, very much, but I am about to be out of here. So I ended up switching again in the middle of school because I didn't want to waste money and waste time and fail out of all my classes. I said, I'm going to go ahead and go undecided. That way I can stay in school and I can figure out what I want to do in the meantime and just take classes towards like the core classes that I need to take in order to figure out what I want to do in college. I was going through all of this at the same time as balancing, church life, work life, everything. I really wasn't working, but I was trying to be an RA. I knew I wanted to be a resident advisor in school and everything. But it surprises me sometimes how much I was holding down after being through so much at that time. So I say God was truly with me because I don't even know how I was actually surviving or making it at that time. So I remember doing the Briggs-Meyer test in my time being, undecided, and they ended up giving me the test. And you know what they told me that I would be best suited to be at the time? They told me a flight attendant. And guess what I said? I said, I don't want to be no flight attendant. I want to go ahead and I want to make sure that at this time I am sitting behind a desk, working a 9 to 5, making sure I could be a boss, a manager, or do whatever. And I was like, I don't even know what I was thinking because flight attendant would have been perfect, but everything happens for a reason. But I kind of ignored that. And then the second thing on there was like something in the form of communication. So I ended up going into the field of communication and choosing broadcast communication because it mixed things together like music. It's speaking was in there, talking. It could go all the way over to TV. You could do things with the TV. But then a time came in the broadcast communication where I had to choose between radio and TV. And if I could have went back to that time, I probably would have chosen TV over radio just because of how many different opportunities I probably could have had, but I just wasn't as confident enough in my speaking at the time. And I was afraid of like maybe slurring words or forgetting things and stuff like that. So I said, maybe radio will be easier so I can just read off something. Nobody can see me and I can just go into this. But now that I think about it at that time, I probably was well equipped for that. But I chose to go ahead into broadcast communication. And, it made me think back at that time. And I don't think it was that I gave up on my teaching dream. It was just that I felt that my impact at the time was not going to be as much as what I thought in my head it was going to be. I can always remember myself, like I said, being a leader in these places. I was volunteering at the Salvation Army at summer camps. I did that 2 years in a row where I worked with kids and I was very good with kids. Now that I can remember those things, I'm like, man, I was good with working with kids. I directed play with children and I was able to direct them on what to do and everything like that. And even volunteering at church. I remember even later, before I got this job as a flight attendant, I was volunteering at the church that I'm still at right now. And I was working with kids and everybody told me how amazing I was working with the children. But now I always like to dedicate my time to whatever I'm giving it commit to, and I don't want to be half into something and not give my all to it. And that's what stops me sometimes from doing like the acting, or stops me sometimes from like, I'm just going to go and work with the children at the church. But if they're not seeing me every week, or if I'm on these trips working as a flight attendant and they're not seeing me, or my face isn't present, they never get used to having you there. And then it's just like you're in and out and you're not all the way in. So although I know that I can go out and I can still be a value as a teacher, I said, I'm just going to pause, and I'm going to come back to something where I can make this money and do what I have to do in order to get to where I need to be. Now, sometimes I think about those decisions. I say, is that the right or the wrong decision? Right now, I feel like it is the right decision because I've been able to get the things that I wanted, to be independent, to have a place of my own, to do all of these different things that I want to do. And I'm very proud of myself, but it is time for me to start moving into those areas. And I encourage everybody, like, it gets to a certain point where, yeah, you got to move forward. Yeah, you can wait around, you can do all of these different things, but at a certain point in time, you got to say, okay, it's time for me to move forward with my plan on what I want to do and what I want to be and what my purpose is in life. And so I'm getting to that point, I feel like, in my life where it's like, okay, time out for all of this. I need to give time to what is going to benefit me. So if that includes me going to watch some more plays sometimes, or going to do things that are more artistic, and saying time out for putting, work first, it's time for me to explore these things that are going to heighten my mind and get me into that artistic mode so that I am creatively inspired to do more. And so that's what I feel like, even with teaching, it wasn't going to allow me. It might have given me that creative edge. It may have. But I feel like teaching still would have held back, or held some of those things back. It may have given me some leeway to do things in the summertime because, teachers are off in the summer. But as far as other things, I think it would take up a lot of my time trying to teach and trying to, act or go towards some of these other things. So I know I have many giftings, and I have patience. I have the patience to be a teacher if I wanted to. I do believe I have the patience for it. But I just feel like in time, you have to take a step back and say, what can I do to make sure that I am stable enough to walk forward in this? And some people like to take a rougher road, and be like, okay, I'm just going to put all myself into maybe teaching, and I'm just going to put a back burner on those things that I dream about, and I'm just going to focus my attention on this. And some people say, I'm just going to forge ahead with what I want to do without thinking about what I need to sustain me here as I pursue this dream that I have. And I think I am, at least a little bit, when it comes to that type of stuff, I stay a little bit level ground. But as I see more and more people venture out and do what they have to do in order to be where they need to be, it's something I want to do. I just want to do it the right way. You want to go out and you want to venture out and do it the right way. Yes, you're going to make your mistakes. Yes, you're going to probably fall down sometimes, but you want to make sure that at least you're proud of what you do, and that you made a conscious effort to make sure that you're doing something that not only honors you, but honors who you serve, which is the Lord for me. And that's really how I feel a lot of times. And so over time, I remember going to sub for 3 years before I moved to North Carolina. I subbed in some schools, and that's when I started to kind of fall out of love with teaching as much, because I was like, man, these teachers work hard. I really want to be financially stable, and I will say this right now, teachers do not make enough. I commend every single teacher. Hats off to those teachers out here that do what they do for the love of it. Because in order to be a teacher, you have to love what you do. You have to love giving into those children every day. It's not about the money a lot of times. Yes, our world has been very money focused, but a lot of people just love to do that. But the money wouldn't be bad to go ahead and give the teachers. They are working their butts off every single day to make sure they are providing for your kids. So the teachers should make a lot more than they do. So I want the unions of the teachers, or the people that are representing these people, to please give these teachers what they are due and what they are worth. Teachers are worth so much more than what we give them credit for. And each teacher that has impacted my life deserved way more than what they made back then. Trust me, they are giving up their entire day. And even after work, when they off the clock, grading papers, when they're not even getting paid sometimes to sit there and grade these papers and look at all these things that these kids have written down, they are worth so much more. So please give teachers what they are worth. please. I have been shouting this from the rooftops, even though I am not a teacher now. I've been shouting this forever. Teachers are grossly underpaid and they need to make so much more than what they do. I mean that for real. And I just have to throw that out there because it's very important. And I'm very passionate about that because I know how much teachers have impacted my life. And, they impact who goes into the world and how these people look at the world. So give them their props. When it comes down to it, it can't be about a check a lot of times. It can't be about the accolades. It has to be about making a huge difference in the lives of growing minds. And that's what a teacher is all about. And that may be why I was so drawn to being a teacher during that time. I believe that you impact kids and you teach the future generations that are coming up that they are important, that they are unique, and that they can make a difference in the world as they go forward. And I think years and years of telling myself that I can make a difference in lives of others, I thought that I could see that outside of the world of teaching. And I still believe that I can. And I think I may be getting back into that vein in some way, shape, or form. It could be directing something someday. It could be doing something in some other vein. But right now, I don't see myself in the classroom doing it. Maybe I will be in a classroom teaching an acting class or doing something. But I want to get back into the classes myself and have a teacher pour back into me right now. That's kind of where I'm at right now, where I want to get back into the seat of, an acting class or do something like that, where somebody can pour back into me so that my passion and my love can come back so that I can go and insert myself into the world in different ways, shapes, or forms. So every single day, I know the importance of not allowing another person to influence huge decisions in my life. I think about that all the time, and that decision that I made back then in college not to go forward in K through third, and how much that changed and shaped what I was going to do for the rest of my college career. But I think I know the importance now of not allowing those things to happen. Big decisions of where you are in life and where you're heading is not up to the opinion of someone else. They do not get to decide what it is. What you need to do is use your heart to guide you and what you feel like will fulfill you and what will make you happy, satisfied, and proud in life. And that is what I am carrying with me from here on out in my life. It used to be just a couple of those things, but now it is all of those things. I need all of those things combined. What makes me happy, what makes me satisfied, and what makes me proud at the end of the day. And that is all I wanted to say today on this chapter of Coleman on Purpose. Thank you again for joining me for this fourth part of my Other Side series. Make sure you are following me on Instagram at DeluxeDave, DeluxeDave. Also, we are on Instagram, or I am on Instagram at Coleman on Purpose, ColemanOnPurpose. Follow me on there. Also, I put up some extra things now on that Coleman on Purpose on Instagram so that I have a few extra things if something comes up throughout the week and I just want to talk about it. That's where I'm going to go to do it instead of always putting it on my Deluxe Dave page. Make sure you also follow me on TikTok at David J. Coleman, DAVIDJ.Coleman. And you can also follow me on Coleman on Purpose on TikTok as well. You can also find me at Deluxe Dave on TikTok also. I'll be there. I am not on Threads yet, but I may get on there someday. You will also find me at Deluxe Dave there. Anyways, I just want to tell you once again, you are unique, you are loved, and you are created for greatness. Until my next chapter, see ya.